What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video on Fantasy Football Scout. You may have noticed a few different videos going out this week. We're trying some new things. So one of them is going to be a Q&A. So every week I'll put out a tweet on my channel, plus a message on the site, fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, to ask for your more specific questions that we can run through. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, make sure to give it a like on the video. Obviously, subscribe if you're new around here. There's plenty more new content to come, as well as all the good stuff, capsule videos, Scoutcast, team news, that kind of thing. Otherwise, let's jump into it. So Moon from the site asked, if you feel like you made the wrong transfer decision, and they give the example of Gazzaniga from last week, do you instantly rectify it or do you stick with your original decision? And the key point there is, do you think it was a mistake or not? Just because you bring in a player, either a defender or a goalkeeper, and they blank, they don't keep a clean sheet, or you bring in a midfielder or a striker and they don't score, get an assist or whatever it may be, doesn't mean it was the bad decision or the wrong decision. So if you go back and think about your thought process about why you bought him in, was it because of the fixtures? Was it because it was Mourinho was there? You've got to give them some time. It's Bournemouth at home up next, Man United away, which is a bit tricky, and then Burnley at home. So two good home games there. Obviously, Mourinho is going to need a bit of time to get the side together, to make them more defensively sound. They obviously look very good going forward, but not as good at the back yet, conceding 2 against West Ham and against Olympiacos as well. So for me, if I was looking at that transfer, for one, it's a goalkeeper transfer, so I wouldn't want to waste too many transfers shipping goalkeepers in and out. And I wouldn't necessarily consider that a mistake. I think they were doing pretty well for like 60, 70 minutes against West Ham before it went all downhill. And like I said, they got 2 home fixtures to come where there could be clean sheets to come. Now, for me, I made a similar transfer recently. I've talked about it before, where I took out took out Kevin De Bruyne to get Son, knowing that I'd want De Bruyne straight back. So I considered that a mistake, and I rectified it. But if I put some thought into it, if you think Gazzaniga's fixtures are good, you think Mourinho's going to make them defensively sound sooner rather than later, then I don't think it's a mistake, and you can look at keeping it. But just look at the logic behind your decision and go from there. So Leo and Nim asked on Twitter, who should we replace Abraham with in our teams? And I suppose one of the key questions there is, and what a lot of other people ask as well, is should we even sell him? Obviously, we don't know how long he's going to be out yet for. Obviously, the key point to this question is we should definitely wait for the press conferences to see what Lampard says. Did go off in the Champions League, did look quite painful. But since then, there's kind of reports that it's just a bang on the hip, which I'm sure is quite painful, could be bruising there. But that's probably better than like a tear or something like that, or a pulled muscle maybe. So hopefully he'll be back. Obviously, we're coming into a key period of the FPL season where there's lots of fixtures to come in a short space of time. So there's like 3 games now in the next 7 days once they get to Saturday. So there is a chance, obviously, he's going to miss one. If it's just one game, and obviously if you've got him at quite a cheap price, and we've made quite a bit of money on him, he might not be in a rush to get out. And I think his form has still been pretty good, at least in the league, still scoring plenty of points in the last few games as well. Obviously nothing against Man City, but I wouldn't necessarily expect many players to get points against Man City. So I'm not worrying too much about him. Lampard comes out and says he's going to miss one game and then play the rest, then I'm pretty happy to keep him, obviously nailed on as number 9. If you want to replace him or you feel like you have to replace him, then obviously there's lots of options. If you've got the money to go to like Vardy, he's obviously template now, but he's in such great form, got such good fixtures coming up. He's almost like the number 1 choice for me. If you wanted to go a bit different, you've got Firmino. Liverpool have obviously got good fixtures. It's quite expensive to double up on Mane and Salah. So if you wanted to go attacking-wise, you could go for Firmino. Jimenez is around the same price as Abraham would have been, so probably the easier one to go to. And if you want to go for someone like Danny Ings, he's got really good fixtures coming up. Obviously, we know he's a little bit injury prone, and it is coming up to Christmas. Lots of games in succession could be a bit of a worry. But given his fixtures, he's only scored 10 less points than Jimenez, but played about 300 minutes less. So if he can get a good run in the side and get some good minutes, I'm sure there'll be points to come. Otherwise, the other one is, especially if you've got 2 free transfers, you could switch to a 3-5-2. If you're on 3 up front at the moment, you could put more money in midfield, and from there you could go for someone like Pulisic. So you still get the Chelsea fixtures, but you go for the attacker that's got much better underlying stats than Abraham at the moment anyway, and go from there. So FPL Banks on Twitter asks, is the sideways shift from Salah to Mane worth it? They've got Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold already, or should they just drop Salah for some fresh differentials in midfield? Obviously mentions the likes of Son, Ali and Zaha. We'll talk about Spurs players in a minute, and we'll talk about generally whether you should drop Salah to Mane or not. Obviously Zaha's off to a bit of a start now this season. It was a very slow start, but he's got his goal against Liverpool. And going forward, Crystal Palace have not got just good fixtures in the short term or medium term. In the long term, their fixture run is really decent for a really long period of time now, well into the new year. So I can see why people are looking at him, and obviously he's a really good price. The key question, I suppose, is whether you should drop Salah to Mane or drop him completely and go without a Liverpool attacker. For me, I've got Mane right now. I made the sideways move last week. Obviously, Salah came through the Champions League. It looks like he's unscathed. Obviously, we'll have to see what Klopp says in the press conference, but it looks pretty good for him. And obviously, they've got good fixtures to come, and this is the key for me. So Liverpool's next four: Brighton at home, Everton at home, Bournemouth away, and Watford at home. That's before they blank. So obviously, if you do bring Mane in, you're not going to be able to play him in game week 18. But I would look at the next four fixtures and decide who each week you want to captain. Yes, Vardy's in great form, but I think Liverpool have got some pretty tasty fixtures. So this week, for example, I wouldn't argue too much about whether you want to captain Vardy against Everton or Mane against Brighton. I think it's pretty close. Personally, I'm probably going to go for Mane. And then Watford at home in game week 17, I'm going to want to captain Mane then, potentially against Bournemouth away as well. And Everton at home is a decent fixture, although I do think Vardy's got a slightly better one in game week 15. So I would look at who you want to captain. And if Liverpool are the key team you want to play from and you do want to drop Salah, then I think I would look at the Mane move. I don't think it's necessary to drop Salah completely and drop a Liverpool attack. But it depends whether you can do anything with the money. So if you bring in Son, obviously you save yourself kind of 2 to 3 million. Can you use that elsewhere? Possibly you can. So think about your own team. But Salah to Mane to me seems okay. Unless you want a bit of a differential now and just keep Salah. If he's come through unscathed and he's going to play the next four, he could get decent points too. So another question from the site, Bruno Banani. Spurs assets are looking good under Mourinho, particularly Kane, Son, Aurier, and maybe even Ali and Lucas. So quite a few names mentioned there. Should we double up or even triple up? So if you look at the games, obviously we've only had two so far. I've already kind of mentioned that. So we've got the win against West Ham and the win against Olympiacos. In both games, they conceded 2 goals. So straight away, I'm thinking, how long will it take the defence to become decent again? Again, they've got good short-term fixtures, Bournemouth and Burnley in the next 3 at home. But they do play Man United, Wolves and Chelsea in the next 5. So I'm not sure there's a lot of clean sheets there. Maybe not enough, because the games are going to come so quick as well. Is there enough time for Mourinho to kind of implement a game plan? I don't think he's necessarily a defensive manager, although we have seen that at times, of course. I'm sure when he plays Man United, he'd be more than happy with a 1-0 win there just to get one over on his old club. But as a general rule, I just think I'm not convinced there's too many clean sheets coming in kind of the next 5 games, although maybe there is in the next 3. The thing with Aurier is, in the last 3 games, he's kept bonus, even though they've got no clean sheets, which is pretty impressive. So once they get the clean sheets together, you'd almost think if he's playing and they get one, he's almost nailed on for a clean sheet. It's just kind of, is he a bit of a liability when it comes to yellow and red cards? Potentially, but the upside there for such a cheap player could be there. So I like him, and I do like the midfield as well. Now, if you're not going to go for Aurier, because bearing in mind there's already loads of cheap defenders elsewhere, Soyuncu, Trent Alexander-Arnold not cheap, but him and Robertson, a lot of people have got them. So it's finding kind of, if you're just playing like a 3 at the back, you've already got a lot of defenders you're trying to play. Lundstrom's got a really good run of fixtures as well soon. So it might be hard to fit Aurier in. And then do you double up on attack? I just don't think we've necessarily seen enough. And with United, Chelsea and Wolves in the next 5, that would probably put me off a little bit playing double or especially triple Spurs. Personally, I think Kane's still quite a lot of money. If you can easily move to him, maybe you've got an Aubameyang or an Aguero in your team, then fair enough. But if you have to move money around to get him, I'm not sure it's worth it just yet. So I like Lucas and Son. I think Ali, no shots in the box against West Ham. Did get his goal against Olympiacos, although perhaps a little bit unfortunate. He was in the right place, but the defender completely missed the ball and he would have just cleared it any other day. So still not completely convinced by Ali. And obviously we have to be sure that, we have to hope that going forward it will be that Ali, Son, Lucas Moura kind of front 3 behind Kane. So we could still see some rotation. It seems very unlikely that Lo Celso, Eriksen, maybe even Lamela and players like that are going to completely miss out. So that's what would put me off probably doubling or tripling. I don't know if we know enough, but given the Bournemouth game up next, I can see the enticement to bring one of their players, and I don't think it's a bad thing to get in the likes of Son, Ali or Moura. But double or triple up, probably not for me just yet. So Abojuri asks on Twitter, what about Liverpool players and possible rotation? Now I've picked this one because I want to talk about rotation in general. This is probably something that every single Christmas gets overblown by FPL managers in general. Probably myself, been guilty of that in the past. The rotation doesn't happen as often as we think. I think sometimes we think, in 3 games, players are going to miss 2 of them. Generally, they're going to miss 1 at best and possibly even play all 3 games like in a row. And over Christmas, again, like for kind of 5, 6, 7 fixtures, whatever it might be, most players are only going to miss 1 maximum. There's players like Vardy you'd expect to go week in, week out and play every single time. So the other thing is, of course, if there's a fixture build-up and players are under risk of rotation, then every player is under risk of rotation, whether it's Liverpool or not. I actually think Liverpool are my favourite team in terms of FPL, even ahead of Man City, because they don't get rotated very often. We know that Salah, Mane, Firmino are going to be the front three. Maybe the midfield three gets moved around a little bit, but we're probably not interested there in terms of FPL points anyway. And at the back, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Roberts are going to play most games, and they're probably the defenders we got. So to answer the kind of question, Liverpool players, I'm not really concerned at all. Yes, it could happen. Everyone's going to be in the same boat. They're too good not to have, especially with the upcoming fixtures. And rotation in general, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yes, there's probably some players, if we see them being rotated already, they probably will be rotated even more over Christmas. But as a general rule, it's not something to worry about. And if you've got a decent bench, you've always got another player to call on anyway. So that is it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, like I said, make sure to give it a like so we know what content you're enjoying on Fantasy Football Scout. And every week we'll try and do a Q&A. Obviously the game weeks are coming thick and fast soon, so we'll have to mix up the type of videos we do. But we'll try and cover the most popular kind of questions and more specific questions that you've got every single week. So keep an eye out on Twitter for a request for questions, and on the site. Hopefully this video will go up most Thursdays. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you've got any comments to make about the questions that were answered, different opinion, different answers that you would have, or your own questions, make sure to leave a comment below. Otherwise, I will catch you next time.